Welcome everyone to session 2 of the CyberLedger Network Security Internship. So just out of curiosity, how many of you have used public Wi-Fi today? Like as in at a coffee shop, airport, or in transit?
Sometimes.
Okay,
Not
well, every
every
one of
day.
those, no, not every day. Well, every day that you do, it's a trust decision that you make without thinking, really, right? You don't really know what happens once you send a message or once you get on the internet or once you're on your Wi-Fi. So today we're going to teach you how to think. So today we're going to teach you how to think about those decisions the way a defender does. So you guys know who I am a little bit just from our meeting the other day, but I'm Melissa. And just one moment here. Oh my goodness. So security through the network lens, understanding how networks become attack surfaces and how defenders think about them. So we've got, oh, one moment here. Sorry, guys. I think maybe I need 2 monitors. It would be a lot easier. Okay, so what we're going to cover is attack surface in enterprise networks, enterprise network architecture, common threat categories, reconnaissance and enumeration, trust boundaries, and why network security fails. And then you'll see that I've got a lab that we'll do together, kind of, and you guys will work as a group as well, just for a couple of minutes. The lab, and then there's a quiz, of course, and they're not really optional because that's how learning gets locked in, right? It's through like hands-on. And so by the end of today, you'll be able to look at any network and start asking the right questions, which are what are the entry points, where are the boundaries, and where is this most likely to break? Let's start with the most fundamental concept in network security, which would be the attack surface. And if you guys have any questions throughout this, just unmute yourself and ask away. An attack surface is every point where an unauthorized user can try to enter or extract data or cause damage of any sort, really. So every point is the key phrase, not just firewalls, not just servers, every device, every user, every piece of software. So you'll see we have network, ports and services that are reachable from outside. Every open port is a conversation that the network is willing to have with strangers. The endpoint, printers are notoriously insecure. IoT devices almost always have default credentials, which people don't think to change those, right? But it's very important. Every new device, service, or user added to a network expands the attack surface. Growth and security are always in tension. So it's like the more ingredients you throw into a soup pot, the bigger that the soup gets, right? It's sort of like that, kind of. So every device is a potential foothold, because you never know. Someone could be like the weakest link. Someone could have default credentials and an attacker gets in there, and when they get in there in that one, then they get into that device, they get into the whole network at that point, or they have the potential to. The hardest patch are the people, the humans. Phishing is the #1 initial access vector in real breaches, not even 0 days. It's the phishing. Those phishing emails and stuff, they're getting better and better all the time at those. Does anyone in here know what a dependency is?
Dependency is something that program depends on to be performable or to work.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Like, for example, one compromised NPM package can affect thousands of apps. It's just things like that, right?
Yes.
So unpatched apps, APIs, open source dependencies, all of those things as far as the software endpoints and whatnot go, that's where the attack surface is. So if adding more users and devices always expands the surface, what does that mean for a company that's growing fast, do you think?
More vulnerabilities.
Pardon? Can you say that one more time? My thing cut out
Yeah,
on me.
there will be more users. There will be more vulnerabilities because usually the end users was the you know are the attack surface, the first line of attack.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Security has to be built into growth and not bolted on after, right? You have to think about all that stuff from the get-go. Okay. Before you can protect a network, you need to understand how one is built, like from the very foundation of it. So this is a simplified version of what real enterprise environments look like. So you see we have internet, untrusted zones, perimeter, such as firewalls, IDSs, and IPs, and DMZs, corporate switches, VLANs, internal servers, it's another layer. Internal segmented zones is another layer, so like HR, finance, engineering. And then you have the data tier, databases, file servers, backups. Each layer is a trust boundary. Traversing inward should require explicit authentication and authorization. Obviously, you guys know that. That's where the whole ethical hacking comes in here. So internet it's hostile by default. Anything you expose here is visible to every scanner in the world. Shodan picks up new services within minutes of them going live, for example. Perimeter is the classic security layer. Firewall blocks unauthorized traffic. IDSs. Oh, 1 minute. We have somebody coming in. Okay, I guess they changed their mind. Okay, so the perimeter is the classic security layer, like I was saying. Sorry about that. Firewall blocks unauthorized traffic. IDSs and IPs watch for attack signatures. DMZs host public-facing services like in a semi-isolated zone. And we have someone trying to get in again. 1 minute. I need 2 screens or something.
Don't worry about any people entering. I will take care of that.
Oh, thank you so much, boss. You're the best. I appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to try this one more time without interruption. The firewall blocks unauthorized traffic. IDSs and IPs watch for attack signatures. DMZs host public-facing services like web servers in a semi-isolated zone. The corporate LAN where most employees live, Active Directory here, file servers, internal apps. stuff like that. Segmented zones for best practice. HR shouldn't be on the same subnet as engineering. Finance should be isolated, obviously. The data tier is the crown jewels, basically. The databases, the backups, the secrets. An attacker who reaches this layer has like literally won, I think, at that point. That's the ultimate payload, I suspect. Each one of these transitions should require authentication and authorization. In a lot of real organizations, they don't, but they should. So what happens if an attacker gets onto the corporate LAN and there's no segmented zones? Does anybody know?
They can attack all the network.
Exactly. They can reach everything and anything at that point. That's why segmentation really does matter. So these are the 6 categories that you will encounter again and again throughout this program and in your careers, really. Learn to recognize them on site. It'll help you out a lot in the long run. So we have pre-attack, which is the reconnaissance. You have passive, active reconnaissance scanning, OSINT, fingerprinting services before attacking, that sort of thing. So that's basically the part where you're gathering all of your intel and all of your information that you need on the target. And then we have, for the network, man-in-the-middle attack, which is ARP spoofing, SSL stripping, rogue APs, intercepting traffic in transit. That's basically what the man-in-the-middle does, is intercepting the traffic in transit in between where it'll be from the person sending to the person receiving. And then you have the man-in-the-middle, which hence the name, right? That does the ARP spoofing and the SSL strippings and the rogue APs and all that. And then for availability, we have denial of service. So a DOS, SYN floods, amplification attacks, volumetric DDoS, which is like flooding a network, flooding a server. I mean, it disrupts availability. So especially for bigger organizations, that can be a huge toll, right? A huge hit, because their livelihood almost depends upon, like, you know, customers and clients, and if they even just for a few hours, if their clients don't have access to their server or their services and whatnot, then that can be a pretty good chunk of change. And not to mention the fact that their reputation is then at stake, right? So the post breach, we have lateral movement. So once they get in, then lateral movement, as you know, is just continuing to get in as far as they can get, as high up there as they can get it, to like admin levels or whatever. So the way that you can accomplish that, or they accomplish that, is pass the hash, Kerber roasting, and pivoting through compromised hosts. So the impact, data exfiltration, that's where they take the data and they either, they do whatever nefarious things they're going to do with it, sell it on the dark web, whatever it is they do. So this can be done by DNS tunneling, encrypted C2 channels, slow and low exfiltration over weeks. So that's where they just sit in there and hiding and they do their thing and nobody has a clue. And then, of course, we have internal, which is the insider threat. Privileged user abuse, accidental misconfiguration, credential theft from within. Excuse me, first day with my new mouth, apparently. So let's say you have somebody that's fairly new in your organization and somebody hands them a USB, like a flash drive, and not thinking anything of it because they're at work, and why would they think anything of it? They toss it into their USB port on their computer, and all of a sudden chaos ensues because, well, on that USB was malware, or any kind of malware, virus, anything like that, a keylogger, so that they can get your credentials, that sort of thing. So before any attack, there's always recon. Attackers do their homework. We'll spend all the next session on this topic. It's that important. So for the man in the middle, think about what ARP spoofing means. Your laptop asks, who has the router IP? And an attacker says, me, I do. Now all your traffic flows through them first. SSL stripping removes HTTPS. The user sees an HTTP URL and often doesn't notice. Yeah, because really, HTTP, well, a lot of people don't even know the difference, don't even know that there is a difference, or even sometimes people probably don't even know that there's an HTTPS. The other way around, however it works. Denial of service, SYN floods exploit the TCP handshake. We'll cover that in the packet journey that we're going to also do real quick here. Amplification attacks use misconfigured DNS or NTP servers to multiply attack traffic 50 to 100 times. And then lateral movement, this is the post-breach phase, like I said earlier. The attacker is inside, past the hash, lets them authenticate to other machines without knowing the password even, just the hash. Kerber roasting extracts service ticket hashes from Active Directory and cracks them offline. And then we have the data exfiltration. DNS tunneling is elegant and terrifying. Data is hidden inside DNS queries, which most firewalls allow freely. Slow and low exfiltration can take weeks. Small amounts of data just under alert thresholds, like just small enough that the IDSs don't go off, or no alerts are thrown. So yeah, they just sit in there and quietly take a little bit at a time. So it's like if somebody put a siphon on your bank account for, say, 5 cents every week, are you going to notice that 5 cents every week? No, probably not. I guess I know some people that probably would, but for the most part, no, probably not. And then, of course, the insider threat can be malicious, or it can be accidental, like I was saying with the USB flash drive. Or they can be a disgruntled ex-employee, or even a disgruntled employee getting ready to quit or something, and then they decided, you know what, heck with you. And that's a lot, sometimes the case too. A misconfigured cloud storage bucket by an intern is an insider threat, essentially, basically, like brand new. They don't really know all the ins and outs and, stuff like that. It does happen. It can happen. I think that's where a lot of employee education and training is important, I believe. So is a disgruntled system admin with standing admin rights. I mean, disgruntled employees of any sort, I guess, right? Especially the higher up they are, the more privilege that they probably have. So which of these do you think causes the most real world damage, if you guys had to take a guess? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Insider threat?
Anybody else?
Probably man-in-the-middle.
Really? What it is it depends on your threat model, basically, right?
Correct.
They all do their own damage in their own. All of these threats can cause damage in their own ways, but it depends entirely on what your threat model is, on what will affect you the most. So it's, that's kind of the point of it, I guess. Are we all understanding so far? Do we have any questions?
I have a question with the insider threat. Is it like intentional, unintentional?
Yeah, there is intentional and unintentional. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, because you said
Yeah,
earlier that probably the intern misconfigured the cloud or something, but yeah, that's unintentional, right?
yes, that's unintentional. Intentional would be like a disgruntled employee that's like sick of their boss's whatever, and maybe they're the ones that hand the intern the new person the USB, and there you go, right? Or you could have, like it said in the example, a disgruntled manager, and they have higher privileges than say just a regular worker or a regular employee. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but would it be intentional if you give someone something from the company, right? That's intention. And what I
Well,
was
yes, that
asking,
would be intentional.
yeah, but what I was asking is like, if there is an intern that he's still new and doesn't know about the configuration or something and misconfigured something, then an attacker
Well, I see what you're saying. I guess that's intentional, but
get
it's a
through the
mistake.
network because of that. So totally that's
Right.
unintentional.
Well, it's because it's a mistake at that point. Intentional to me, anyway, it implies that
Yeah. So
they meant to do that.
should
They
cover
were.
an insider trade or not?
Can you ask that one more time? Just the last part that you said. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, is it an insider threat then or not?
Yes, I think it's safe to say yes. That would be an insider threat, because an insider threat can either be intentional or unintentional. And I know that does seem like it would be intentional, but I think in a case like that, the intention is not to cause a data breach or to cause any harm, right? It's just an honest mistake, which a lot of times there's not room for that really, but they do happen because we're only people, right?
Thank you.
Okay. So are we ready to continue, or does anyone else have any questions thus far? So I would take that as we're ready to continue. Okay. So let's go deeper on recon, because it's the first thing that happens in almost every real attack, and it's something you can do legally right now to understand your own exposure. So we have here the passive recon column, who is and DNS lookups. Who is who owns the domain, when does it expire, and contact information. And you can get all this information free, or actually you can get who is free at lookup.icann.org. And I can, if you guys are interested in any of these, I can send them to you. Just let me know. And then we have Shodan, which is another tool. Think of it as Google for exposed devices and services. You can search your home IP tonight. You might be surprised, really, at what you'll find. We have job postings. A company hiring for, let's say, Palo Alto networks engineers. Just told you what firewall they use, right? So AWS Lambda experience tells you their cloud stack. So these are just like, it's like OSINT basically. It's open source. It's open source recon in a sense here. Certificate transparency finds, so crt.sh finds subdomains by looking at SSL certificate logs, which often reveals internal or staging environments. And then we have Google dorking. I don't know if you guys know a whole lot about that, but it's all legal and it's all revealing, basically. And again, it's open source, right? So then we have active recon, which is direct network contact. We have Nmap. It's a version scan. If you put the -SV version scan, and it asks each open port, what are you? And maps the response to known service signatures. So it just touches on open ports, and that's the services and that sort of thing. And then we have Nmap, TCP-O is an OS, so an operating system fingerprint. It analyzes TCP IP/IP stack behavior to guess the operating system. And sometimes it can't, but it's really useful when it can. And then there's NetDiscover, which finds live hosts on a local network using ARP. And then we have Nessus or OpenVAS, which is automated vulnerability scanners. They are noisy and they will show up in logs. So just be prepared that you're probably going to be, you'll be found out, or they would be found out, the attacker, at that point, if not before. And then there's banner grabbing, which returns whatever the service announces about itself. So, like, one minute, just 1 second, guys. I don't know what's going on here. Okay. So active recon without authorization is illegal. In this program, anyway, every scan you run is inside our lab environment against machines we own or have explicit permission to scan. You never use these tools against live targets without written authorization, because at that point, you're no longer ethical if you do it. Because basically that's the difference between ethical and non-ethical is permission, right? Okay. So now we have trust boundaries. Trust but verify. Who's heard that phrase? Anybody?
I thought
That model.
it was now reduced to zero trust. Period. No.
No, that's what I'm about to say next. That's what I was about to say next. That model is dead in modern society, modern security, basically, right? The new model is, like you said, zero trust. Zero trust, never trust, always verify, regardless of where the request comes from. That's like rules to live by kind of in this scenario. Yeah, but you're right. Zero trust. Yeah. Trust but verify has been dead in the water for a while, I think. So basically, regardless of where the request comes from, don't trust nobody. And always, always, always verify. And it's a good way to stay a little bit safer anyway. So we have implicit trust, which is the old model. Again, it's the old perimeter model. Castle and moat thinking. It's like that ancient almost. Strong walls, everything inside is safe. The problem is the moment someone gets inside through either phishing or a compromised VPN or a rogue device, they have access to everything, no internal verification whatsoever. This is how most major breaches play out. Initial access at the perimeter and then free movement inside, essentially. So, but for zero trust, which is the modern security standards, every request is treated as potentially hostile regardless of the origin, unless it's like your mom. But even then, you know what if it's not really your mom? You prove who you are. Oh goodness, come on. Hang on, I lost my spot here. Okay, you prove who you are, prove your device is healthy, and prove you need access to this specific resource every single time. So Microsoft, Google, and most large enterprises have been implementing this for years, which is, it's good, right? I think it's good. So like, I don't know, multi-factor authentication would fall into that a little bit, I think. Then we have micro-segmentation. Hang on. So even if zero trust isn't fully deployed, segmentation limits blast the radius. So because networks are divided into small zones, right? A breach in HR cannot automatically access finance. Lateral movement is blocked. A breach in one zone can't freely reach another. So let's say an HR breach doesn't become a finance breach, right? So the IoT device compromise doesn't become a domain controller compromise in micro-segmentation. And then we have least privilege. Users and services get only the minimum access required. No standing admin rights, just-in-time access models, that sort of thing. So they only get what they need. They only get the information that they need in order to do their tasks correctly, their jobs correctly, to the best of their abilities. But they don't, like, let's say you're, well, I don't even know an example to use. Like an intern isn't going to have the same privileges as a manager, or even someone who's been there longer, potentially, depending on where you live, depending on where you work. And there are no standing admin rights in least privilege. You request elevated access when you need it. So it's like upon request, in other words. And then just in time, when you need it, just in time, and it expires. It'll expire, let's say 10 minutes. So it'll be done. You won't be able to access it anymore. This kills an enormous number of lateral movement techniques. So if you guys had a company and there's no segmentation and everything trusts everything once you're in that network, what does a successful phishing attack give an attacker, do you think? So if your company has no segmentation and everything trusts everything once you're in there, what do you think a successful phishing attack would give an attacker?
100%.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep, exactly. You got it. Bang on. So we've covered what the threats are. Now let's be honest about why organizations fail to stop them. Because it's almost never because they didn't know threats existed. Almost never, anyway. So we have the complexity creep. Which is basically where networks grow organically over years, legacy systems, forgotten services, undocumented VLANs. No one has a complete map, right? So if you ask a system admin to draw their full network topology from memory, they can't. Shadow IT apps and services deployed without IT knowledge is everywhere, and you can't protect what you don't know exists, right? And then we have, of course, misconfiguration, which are like default credentials, overlay permissive firewall rules, unencrypted protocols. Most breaches start with a configuration error, or a lot of them do anyway. So the Verizon DBIR consistently shows misconfigurations as a top breach cause. Default admin/admin credentials on a new device, and a firewall rule added in 2015 for a project that ended is still open. Stuff like that, right? S3 bucket set to public. These are not exotic vulnerabilities. These are like, yeah, they're not exotic vulnerabilities. And then we have alert fatigue, which SOC analysts face thousands of alerts daily, and high false positive rates mean real threats get buried or ignored. I mean, it's just, again, human error. Humans are only humans, right? And if you have a high number of false positives, then it's kind of like you just get, I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean, though. Some enterprise SIEMs generate tens of thousands of alerts per day. Analysts tune them out, essentially. The one real alert gets buried because they overlooked it. The fix isn't more alerts, it's better signal to noise ratio, basically. And then we have the patch lag. Critical patches sit undeployed for weeks due to change control. sometimes. Attackers exploit known CVEs within hours of disclosure usually. So for example, Log4Shell went from disclosure to active exploitation in hours. Change control processes that take 3 to 4 weeks are liability when attackers move in hours. Like, it's no time at all anymore. Risk-based patching, critical CVEs get emergency treatment. That's the answer, I think. And then we have siloed teams, network security and cloud teams that don't communicate, basically is what this is. Gaps live at the seams between teams, and attackers find them first. So it's communication in every aspect is important, and it is in cybersecurity very much too. So let's say your network team doesn't talk to your security team, your cloud team deploys infrastructure, the firewall team doesn't know about, like, yeah, I don't know. Security gaps live exactly at those seams. So you'll notice that none of these are, we got hit by a nation state 0 day, because most real breaches are embarrassingly preventable. That's the sophistication bias problem. Organizations overinvest in exotic detection and underinvest in fundamentals. So, I mean, especially in this day and age, the old school attacks are becoming a little bit more popular because everybody is focused on AI and you know what I mean? So people are going back to, or attackers are reverting back to how they used to attack in earlier days. Okay, and then we have some key takeaways from this. So attack surfaces, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can you go over a little bit more on old school attacks? I'm intrigued by that.
Okay, what do you mean? Which part?
Well, for example, I know one example would be like social engineering. That's like classic.
Yep.
Concept
Yeah,
of
that's
AI.
Yep. Well, I mean, I guess what I'm thinking is anything does that, like, I don't know how to explain it, like cross-site scripting and just the ways that they used to do it before AI, before AI became really big and kind of took over everything. Because everyone's over here looking at AI and what AI is doing and how they can stop AI. And then your old school attackers are over here going, well, I can just go back to a keylogger or, you know, something like that. Does that make sense?
I got you.
Okay. This thing is so touchy, my goodness. So some key takeaways are attack surfaces are everywhere. Every device, service, and user is a potential entry point. Enterprise networks have layers. Each layer transition should enforce authentication and policy, for sure. Reconnaissance is the first step in almost every real world attack. Defenders must think like attackers. Like an attacker mindset is the key in this. It helps with a lot of all of this, and it helps with understanding, and we have trust boundaries are breaking down. Zero trust is the modern answer to perimeter-based thinking, as it should be. I think you can't really trust anybody. Security failures are usually structural, operational, or human, rarely purely technical, and that makes sense, I think. So if you had to pick one of these 5 takeaways as the most important for a brand new security professional to internalize, which one do you think and why? There's no wrong answers.
Sorry, I
Anybody?
didn't catch the question. What was it again? I'm sorry.
If you had to pick one of these 5 takeaways as the most important for a brand new security professional to internalize, which one and why? Which one do you think and why?
No, I'll say the first one because it kind of encapsulates everything that's below. Funny enough.
Yeah.
Every device,
Yeah.
every service, every user as a potential entry point. So that's a summary of everything.
Yep. That's true. I agree. There's not a wrong answer at all here. It's just, I was just interested in what you guys think. Okay, so let's put a little bit of this into practice. I think we'll do a little bit of a condensed version maybe of this lab, but so I wanted to do a lab on network mapping to identify the attack surface, basically. So what you'll do is map a fictional company's network diagram, identify open ports and exposed services, categorize threat vectors by attack surface type, and document trust boundaries and propose segmentation. And then we just have a quick quiz. We'll just go over this really quick. So I'm not sure on the time, but I know we're gotta be getting, yeah, okay. If we go over the hour a little bit, is that gonna be okay with you guys? It won't be by much.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. I wanted to show you guys this really quick. And also at the end of the session, if you guys want what I'm about to show you, let me know and I'll send it to you. I may just send it to you guys all anyway.
Melissa, is the common repository going to be the Google Drive that
yes, I believe
previous
so.
session? Okay.
I believe so.
cleaner.
I
Okay.
believe it will be. Yeah, I believe so. Okay, I just want to find, just give me 1 second here, guys, because I can't see where I put this file. One moment. Okay, can you guys see this
Yes.
on my screen? You see the packet journey, browser to server? I think that we'll just go over this really quickly because it's got a lot more information, really. And if anyone wants to do the lab after, just let me know. And I can send it to you if you just want to do a little bit of homework or something.
The text a little bit small, but we can see a little bit.
Okay, let me see if I can make it bigger. Is that any better?
It's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I can send this to you guys too if you want it. It's just a,
Yeah, please.
Just-
Okay.
okay. Yeah, it'll be useful throughout this whole internship, actually, probably. And we'll just go over this really quick and then we'll do the quiz and then we're good. So we have URL parsing. I'll just read this over to you guys and you can just see kind of the flow of it here. So from your browser, so let's say you're shopping at Walmart or something. So your browser to the DNS cache. So the browser cache basically. And to the resolver. And yeah, I'm going to go over this quick because I know you guys have lots you got to do, I'm sure, besides this right now. Over the hour, I mean. That. So let's say you type example.com and press enter. The browser decomposes the URL protocol, so HTTPS, host name, which is example.com or walmart.com or whatever, the path, which is the slash, and port 443 implied here in this one. Before touching the network, the browser checks its own DNS cache, and if it already knows the IP, it skips DNS entirely. This local cache is checked in under a millisecond. And then stage 2, DNS resolution, hostname resolved to IP address. The browser doesn't know example.com's IP, so it queries the operating system resolver, which asks your router or ISP's DNS. If still unknown, the resolver performs a recursive lookup. So root name server, which zone, that sort of thing. So it's basically asking who owns example.com. Example.com's authoritative name server. So what's the IP? That sort of thing. And the answer is a record. It returned and cached for future requests. I don't know. I have that on there confusing. I'll fix that before I send it to you guys.
No, that's a record, not a record.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's probably where I messed up on that and got confused. Okay. Okay, so then we have TCP handshake. So at this stage, the browser knows where to connect, right? Before it sends any data. TCP requires a reliable connection, and this is the three-way handshake. Basically, the client sends the SYN, so I want to connect, is what it's saying. The server responds, acknowledged, I'm ready. And the client replies, acknowledged, confirmed. Only after this exchange does the connection enter established state, and data transfer can then begin. And then stage 4 is the TLS negotiation. So channel encrypted. Because we're using HTTPS, TLS must negotiate before any HTTP is sent. So the client sends client hello, supported TLS versions and cipher suites, of course. The server responds with server hello and its certificate. And the client verifies the certificate against its trusted certificate authority store, basically. So both sides use asymmetric cryptology to derive a shared symmetric session key, and then this switches to fast AES encryption for the rest of the session, basically. And then we have HTTP requests, and I'm going through this pretty quick, but like I said, you guys are going to have this anyway. So the browser sends an HTTP GET request inside the TLS session. The request contains, so the method, so GET, the path, which, as I said before, the slash, the HTTP version, and a set of headers. So host, user agent, accept encoding, cookie, and more. So from the network's perspective, this entire request is an encrypted blob. Only the server can decrypt and read it. So here, it just shows the method and the path, the host header. And without TLS, all HTTP headers, including cookies and session tokens, are in plain text, which enables session hijacking. Even with TLS, cross-site scripting attacks can steal tokens directly from the browser's memory. Okay. The stage 6, the server response. So the server sends back the response. The server processes the request, checking routing, authentication, cache, database, queries if needed, and builds a response. The response has 3 parts, basically. You have a status line, which is like okay, like 200 okay, or 404 or 403, response headers. So the content type, content length, set cookie, cache control, CORS headers, and the response body. So the HTML, JSON, image, or other content, whatever the body happens to be. And all of this is sent encrypted back through the same TLS session. Server-side injection attacks, cross-site scripting, SQL injection, that can corrupt or weaponize the response, which injecting malicious scripts into a legitimate page that execute in the victim's browser with full site privileges is basically what that means. And then we have the browser renders. So what page rendered, the journey complete. This is the end of it. The browser receives the encrypted response. It decrypts it via TLS and begins parsing. So HTML is then converted into the DOM, Cross-site scripting is parsed into the LM. JavaScript is executed by the JavaScript engine, and sub-resources like images, fonts, scripts from CDNs each trigger new requests repeating stages 2 to 6 for their respective domains. Once everything is assembled, the render engine paints pixels to screen and the user sees the page, essentially. So that's, oh, and then, yeah, the attack vector is the sub-resource integrity. So SRI attacks are a compromised CDN can serve malicious JavaScript to every site that loads from it. So the way around that is always use SRI hashes, in other words. But yeah, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to send this to you guys here. Just give me 1 second, guys. Bear with me and I'll have this sent to you. No, you know what? I'm going to throw it actually on Discord. And everyone's got Discord, right? Everyone has access to the server on Discord.
Yeah, my only issue is that it's clutter in there though, to be honest.
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little bit hard to see what's what in there. Just because there's a lot of messages and stuff that go on. Can you know what? I think your contact information or access to it anyway. I will email it to you if that's okay.
Awesome.
Okay. All right, so I think for this time for the quiz, because we're running a little bit short on time, just give me 1 second here to even find where I put it. Just when you think that you're all organized, when it comes time to use it, you're not so organized, apparently, or I'm not.